Good morning. Welcome to Denton Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. My name is Sarah, my pronouns are they, them, and I'm a member of the Board of Trustees. Whatever your reason, whatever your worldview or spiritual tradition, age, race, gender identity, sexual orientation, financial means, physical ability, political affiliation, or immigration status, you are welcome here. Newcomers, please complete an online visitor information card to connect with us. See the chat or the seat pocket in front of you. Each week, children ages 0 to 3 are welcome in the sanctuary or in the nursery in the fellowship hall. Children ages 4 through 5th grade are invited to join Explorers Group by signing in at the welcome wagon, and then will be invited to their room later in the service. Youth 6th through 12th grade are invited to remain in the service. For our announcements, Denton Cups would like to invite you to their Introduction to Modern Paganism class. If you've ever wanted to know more about paganism, please join John and Cynthia here at Deuce. Saturday, February 27th is the last Saturday at 2 o'clock. The New Adult Book Club is coming soon. Starting February 13th at 5 at Aura Coffee on West Hickory, new adults ages 20 to 30 are invited to attend and discuss a book. Our February book will be A Psalm for the Wild Built by Becky Chambers. See the newsletter or grab a flyer in the back for more info. After worship today, please join us in the fellowship hall through this door for coffee and conversation, and lunch bunch will be at Royal Yum today after service. Today we welcome Reverend Lora to the pulpit. Reverend Lora Brandis is a community minister from Dallas who provides worship services to mostly local congregations and serves as an on-call hospital chaplain. She provides worship once a month to Denton UU Fellowship, 4 times a year to the Amarillo UU Fellowship, and even traveled to Lake Chapala UU Fellowship in Mexico this past summer. Ooh. She is also a certified spiritual director. 2 days a week, she and her husband Frank care for their 4-year-old twin grandchildren, Rose and James. Lora previously served congregations in Utah, Idaho, California, and Texas. Welcome, Reverend Lora. Now, let us prepare our hearts and minds for worship.
Hear these words, this poem by Rosemary Watola Trommer, as your call to worship. Considering resilience. Today I talk to the broccoli sprouts. I kneel down beside their bed. You can do it, I tell them. I don't mention that every summer there is a hailstorm that will puncture and tear their leaves, that bits of their green will litter the soil. Though the sprouts are less than half an inch tall, the leaves already look tough, like thick 4-leaf clover. The hail, though, will be tougher. Perhaps I don't want to tell myself how tough things will get. Would rather encourage, would rather play, would rather revel in the day's sun. But today, there's no lying to the self. The inner hail has already come. My leaves hang in tatters. All around me, flower petals are fallen, scattered. Out of season, widespread wreckage. There is an inner knowing, though, one that needs no one else to encourage it. It knows to grow, to grow despite the damage, to grow because damage, to grow. It knows to grow because that is what we are here to do. Our new leaves coming in to support the old, to support the whole, every bit as vulnerable and green, so green. I now invite Lane to light our chalice. We light this flame with the words of Reverend Michelle Collins. We light this flame for the wisdom that hums beneath thought in our heartbeat, our breath, the subtle flutter that says, "You are still here." We light this chalice to remember resilience begins in the body's quiet language, whispering us along. Please rise in body or spirit for hymn number 6, Just as Long as I Have Breath.
Just as long as I have breath, I must answer yes to life. Though with pain I make my way, still with hope I meet each day. If they ask what I did well, tell them I said yes to life. Just as long as vision lasts, I must answer yes to truth. In my dream and in my dark, always that elusive spark. If they ask what I did well, tell them I said yes to truth. Just as long as my heart beats, I must answer yes to love. Disappointment pierced me through, still I kept on loving you. If they ask what I did best, tell them I said yes to love.
I promised Al I wouldn't touch the microphone, so I'm assuming I can be heard. Yes? Okay, good. Now, this is the story of Brigid and the Cursed Winter, or Brigid and the Cursed Winter, because how you pronounce her name changes. And I think in this one, she's Brigid. Yeah. And I'll talk about that later in the sermon about a little bit about what happens to her with the Christians. This is before the Christians, though. And this is based on Imbolc, which some of you celebrated last night with a ritual. And so this is the story of that. It's a special celebration that comes halfway between winter and spring and honors the wonder of nature. It's a time when we notice that even though it's still cold outside, the world is beginning to wake up again. The days are getting a little longer, the sun feels a tiny bit warmer. Animals start moving around more, and plants deep underground begin to get ready to grow. As Imbolc arrives, February 1st, February 2nd, that you all celebrated last night, and the natural world begins to stir again, it is the perfect time to turn our attention toward stories of resilience. Stories of how light returns, how warmth is rekindled. Stories like this one. A story of how heroes like Brigid, I'll get it, I'll never get it. I might get it, I don't know. Face a cursed winter, not with fear, but with resilience, compassion, and strength. Long ago, when the world was young and the seasons were still finding their rhythm, there came a winter unlike any before. The snow fell endlessly, burying the fields, the rivers, and even the doors of the people's homes. The animals, who usually found shelter in the forests, grew weak with hunger. The people, too, huddled inside, afraid that spring might never return. In a small village, a girl named Brigid refused to accept this endless winter. You see, Brigid had been born during the coldest time of the year, when the frost lay thick on the land and the rivers were hard as stone. But from the moment she arrived, there was a resilience to her, a warmth about her, and an unseen flame that never went out. She had always been close to the earth. She knew where to find herbs to heal the sick, how to call birds down from the sky with just a sweet whistle from her lips. Brigid listened to the whispers of the trees, the murmur of the rivers, and the quiet secrets of the fire. While others despaired, she wandered into the frozen woods, seeking answers. Deep in the forest, she came upon an old woman wrapped in tattered gray robes, stirring a pot over a weak fire. Her hair was as white as the snow, and her fingers were gnarled like the twisted branches of a winter tree. "You have come far, child." Or I could say, "You have come far, child," the woman said, her voice crackling like ice. "Why do you wander in this cursed cold?" Brigid bowed respectfully. "I seek to know why winter does not end. The earth sleeps, but it does not wake. The people suffer, the animals grow weak. Tell me, grandmother, what can be done?" The old woman narrowed her eyes. "The cold lingers because the Kaliak, the winter hag, refuses to release her grip. She hoards the fire of spring, hiding it in her mountain cave, letting no warmth return to the land." Brigid's heart blazed like an ember. She could not let winter rule forever. So she set off toward the mountain, climbing through thick drifts of snow, bracing against the howling wind. At last, she reached the cave of the Kaliak, where great icicles hung like spears from the ceiling. In the center of the cave, a small fire burned low, barely flickering. "Who dares," I gotta do another voice. "Who dares enter my domain?" the Kaliak's voice boomed, echoing off the frozen walls. Her skin was like cracked stone, her eyes sharp as a falcon's. "I am Brigid," the girl declared, standing tall despite the cold. "I have come to bring back the fire of spring." The Kaliak laughed, a sound like breaking ice. "You, a mere girl? The fire is mine. The world belongs to winter." But Brigid did not waver. She knelt before the fire and cupped her hands around it, whispering a blessing. The ember within the flame pulsed as if recognizing her voice. She blew gently, feeding it with her breath, her warmth, her courage. The fire flared, glowing brighter. The ice walls trembled. The Kaliak let out a cry as the warmth spread, melting the frost from the cave walls, loosening winter's grip. Seeing she could not win, the Kaliak shrank away, retreating into the shadows. Brigid gathered the flame and carried it back down the mountain. As she walked, the snow began to soften, the rivers began to flow, and the first green shoots pushed through the earth. The people rejoiced, for they knew the balance had been restored. And from that day on, Brigid was honored as a keeper of the flame, a guardian of warmth, renewal, and the turning of the seasons. And so, each year at Imbolc, people light candles in her name, remembering that even in the coldest times, The fire of life and hope cannot be extinguished. And now it's time to light the children's chalice. Want me to help?
Well, we have no kids, so I don't know that we have to light the chalice.
Oh, we may not need to.
Alas. Oh, okay. Are you going to go to class too?
You will not see me out to class.
Oh, we have 2 kids.
Oh, the acting this morning.
Yes, thank you.
You said I was acting.
We'll say together the words in our order of service. This is our chalice of love and of light, uniting you by day and by night. And now the adults can go back to their seats. The energy is great in here today.
Please join me in the spirit of prayer and meditation. Please breathe with me, and if you are comfortable closing your eyes, go ahead. If not, if you can close them slightly, finding a way to turn inward, but not away, staying present with the joys and the sorrows of this community. Our prayer this morning is the acknowledgement of living our lives like we always live our lives, and yet we are so aware of what is happening in Minneapolis and is happening in our communities here in Texas, and yet life will take us where it needs to take us. We can celebrate with the young activists of a nearby middle school, and we can hold in our hearts members of this congregation who face difficulties, who mourn losses and grieve, who pray for friends, and who celebrate birthdays and mothers and all of those small, seemingly small things that make a life, that need to continue as we hold our attention to how we can be of use right now, how we can stay resilient, how we can live our lives without going numb, without turning away, but with still grieving and celebrating as we always do, as we live our lives fully during this time. We pray and we acknowledge all of these things, and we hold them in our hearts in a brief meditation in the silence. Breathing, we notice breathing, we come back to being fully present in this room, in this time, with this community. Blessed be and amen.
Our first reading this morning is Impossible Generosity by Rosemary Watola Trommer. For my daughter. I want to give you what I could not give you, a world where there is no hurt or grief, a world where you don't know ravaged and sleepless nights, Don't know mornings too quiet or the color of dirt in the cemetery. Because I cannot give you this, I want to give you the certainty that you can live fully in a world where there is hurt and grief, that you can meet what is most painful and at the same time turn towards what is beautiful. I want to give you a love so safe that you grow into yourself, certain that there is nothing you can do or not do that could keep me from loving you. I have been loved like this too, and I did not know the enormity of the gift until I longed to give it to you. I want you to take it for granted that love is so vast, so unshakable, so true. I want to give you the belief in your resilience. Want you to know yourself as a flower that grows more vigorously after it's been cut back. I would keep the hands from cutting you, but since I can't do that, I want to be the soil, the rain, the sun. I want to give you what cannot be given. Want to give you what you have given me, the astonishment of living with you in a time of hurt and grief, in the miracle of watching you grow. Please rise in body or spirit for hymn number 15, The Lone Wild Bird.
The lone wild bird in lofty flight is still with thee, nor leaves thy side. And I am thine, I rest in thee. Great Spirit, come and rest in me. The end of earth are in thy hand, the seas dark deep and far off land. And I am thine, I rest in thee. Great Spirit, come and rest in me.
The second reading is from Welcoming the Unwelcome by Pema Chodron. Many of us who are engaged with the world experience discouragement regularly. If you're concerned about the environment, social justice and equity, prison reform, the welfare of immigrants, or the welfare of people and the planet in general, it's very easy to lose heart. But even though there are many situations that seem unfixable, I feel it's important not to lose heart. The question then becomes, how? How do we not let ourselves spiral downward into a mindset of increasing hopelessness and negativity? Or if we're already finding ourselves going downhill, how do we pull ourselves up? One encouraging thing I hear over and over from people working in all kinds of fields is that they see a lot of basic goodness in people. My friend Jarvis Masters has been on death row in California since 1985. Most of his friends and neighbors have murdered people. But he said to me once, "I've never met anybody where I didn't see their basic goodness. When you really talk to these guys, there's so much regret and heartbreak and sad family history. You begin to see their tenderness, their basic goodness." When more of us learn to trust our basic goodness, society will get stronger. This doesn't mean there won't be hard times. It doesn't mean violence, injustice, and poverty will end. It doesn't mean the polar ice caps won't melt and the water in the oceans won't rise. But it does mean that there will be a lot of resilient people who will never give up on humanity and will always be around to help others. It does mean that when things get rough, it will bring out the best in people rather than the worst. If we learn how not to lose heart, we will always find ways to make important contributions to our world.
I promise I won't make you cry right now. That was a rough one. In the deep of winter, we gather to honor the quiet resilience of life, trusting the seeds of hope that rest unseen beneath the frozen ground. At this season, we welcome the returning light, renewing our commitment to tend the small flames of courage, care, and transformation within ourselves and our world. Each week, we pass 2 baskets, one for this faith community and one for the larger community. Our second offering recipient for February is the Denton African American Scholarship Foundation. The Denton African American Scholarship Foundation helps make college a reality for youth of African American descent residing in the Denton area. The organization works in collaboration with Denton Independent School District to identify eligible applicants through counselors at each of the Denton high schools, and a panel of community volunteers evaluate applications and make awards each spring. The scholarship program began in the early 1980s, and since that time has given over $400,000 in awards to youth pursuing higher education. Please see the chat or order of service for ways to give. The offering is now gratefully received.
From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and by this we live.
We don't get a lot of winter in North Texas, but when we do, everything stops. We remember what we learned from past winters. We look towards the north and look how others do winter, learning how others withstand the ice and snow. Winter can teach us resilience when we stay present to that which challenges us. Winter teaches us resilience when it reminds us that something beautiful is always waiting to emerge. It's not winter, sort of, today. I mean, on the calendar it is, but, you know. We have learned that winter might not be done with us quite yet. We tell our stories. Remember that time it snowed on Easter, or remember that time we lost power and put most of the contents of our refrigerator out in the snow? Yeah. I remember when it snowed the first day of spring. I was the intern minister at Horizon Unitarian Universalist in Carrollton. My supervising minister, Reverend Dennis Hamilton, wanted me to write the opening words for worship that Sunday. What should I say? I asked. Well, it's the first day of spring, he said. Write something about that. It snowed. We recall how we all survived Snowmageddon when the Texas electric grid failed 5 years ago. We were still isolated because of the pandemic shutdown. Frank, my husband, and I discovered we could sleep in the smaller guest room, which trapped heat when the electricity came back on. We charged our phones and boiled eggs each time the electricity came back on. The electricity would go out and then it would come back on. There was no pattern to it. I received calls from congregation members checking in and checking on each other on my phone that had been charged after the electricity came back on. We survived the pandemic and Snowmageddon, learning what to expect for future storms and hopefully future pandemics. But also learning we don't always know what to expect. 2 weeks ago, we were staying home and thought we knew what to expect. We had learned from past winters. We kept our thermostats low to do our part in making sure the grid would not shut down again. We stocked up on food that could be eaten without much preparation. Apparently, some stores sold out of toilet paper again. We were safe and warm and staying home. 2 weeks ago, while we were safe and warm and staying home, 37-year-old Alex Preddy, an intensive care nurse for the VA, was shot multiple times and killed by United States Customs and Border Protection agents in Minneapolis. This is the 9th death so far this year, attributed to the increased presence of ICE and Border Patrol agents in our communities. 6 of the 9 have been in detention. Some of us ask, who are we becoming? Others ask, why haven't you noticed that this is who we are? It's not all of who we are. We are more than the cruelest among us. We are also how we respond to the cruelest among us. Adam Serwer, writing for The Atlantic, reported that he didn't know what the administration expected from their crackdown in Minneapolis. Perhaps some social media influencers looking for attention would be there. Perhaps some violent Antifa types looking for a fight would be there. What they discovered, he writes, in the frozen North was something different. A real resistance, broad and organized and overwhelmingly non-violent. The kind of movement that emerges only under sustained attacks by an oppressive state. Tens of thousands of volunteers, at the very least, are risking their safety to defend their neighbors and their freedom. What they discovered is what we are discovering as we watch and as we plan. We are discovering that there are a lot of resilient people who will never give up on humanity and will always be around to help others. American Buddhist nun Pema Chodron writes, "When more of us learn to trust our basic goodness, society will get stronger. This doesn't mean there won't be hard times. It doesn't mean violence, injustice, and poverty will end. It doesn't mean the polar ice caps won't melt and the water in the oceans won't rise. But it does mean that there will be a lot of resilient people who will never give up on humanity and will always be around to help others." She tells the story of her friend Jarvis Masters, who has been on death row since 1985. She quotes him as saying, "I've never met anybody where I didn't see their basic goodness." I will tell you that some days it is hard enough for me to trust my own basic goodness. Most days, it is impossible for me to trust the basic goodness of the cruelest among us. It is our dilemma as Unitarian Universalists. We say we affirm the inherent worth and dignity of everyone. Everyone. We reject original sin and affirm original blessing. We also know that hurt people hurt people. We know that some people can be so broken, so corrupt, that they are irredeemable. Yet, the Universalist part of our name means nobody is outside the circle of love. I had a professor in seminary who said that if he was on the same plane as Hitler, he would think he was on the wrong plane. In other words, Hitler was going to hell and he wasn't. He was very firm in his Christian belief in the existence of heaven and hell, and very firm in where he knew he was going. As a Unitarian Universalist, I am firm in my belief that we are responsible for what happens in this life, and let the next life, if there is one, take care of itself. Affirming inherent worth and dignity does not mean that we don't understand that humanity is capable of doing horrendous harm and has historically been capable of horrendous harm. Pema Chodron writes, "When more of us learn to trust our basic goodness, society will get stronger." She doesn't say, when more of us see the basic goodness in everyone, society will get stronger. She says, when more of us learn to trust our own basic goodness, we are responsible for learning to trust our own basic goodness. They don't have to understand the teaching. We do. Just look at what we're capable of when we get it. Adam Serber writes that the people showing up in Minnesota to resist the federal occupation are ordinary Americans, people with jobs, moms and dads, friends and neighbors. They can be divided into roughly 3 groups, he says. The largest group is the protesters. That's who we see on the news and on social media. They face tear gas and pepper spray and below freezing temperatures. They are my clergy colleagues, the national ones, who showed up for an organized action, and the local Minneapolis ones who knelt in the snow to be arrested in an act of civil disobedience at the airport. The second group are those who deliver supplies to families in hiding. They help families who cannot work make rent or mortgage payments. The third group has been named unofficially Ice Watch. They are the ones with the whistles and the signal chats, alerting neighbors to the presence of ice. And that's ice, capital I-C-E, and I love the resonance of ice in frozen Minneapolis. Ice Watch are the ones with the whistles and signal chats, alerting neighbors to the presence of ice. Renee Good and Alex Preddy were part of the third group. When you read accounts of how Minneapolis is resisting the federal occupation, you will notice how action arises spontaneously and is based on caring, compassion, and non-hierarchical ways of organizing. There were networks already in place because of the response to George Floyd's murder. They also learned from what happened in LA and Chicago. The people of Minneapolis have become resilient people who won't give up on humanity. This morning, for the message for all ages, I told the story of Brigid, the ancient Celtic goddess of fire and water, who became Saint Brigid, which I'm more familiar with saying that name, when Christianity took over. The nuns kept her, the goddess, her sacred flame burning until the monasteries were dissolved by Henry VIII in the 16th century. A reminder that empires rise and fall, and rituals that remind us of humanity's resilience remain. Neo-pagan writer and feminist Starhawk celebrates Brigid. I think she would say Brigid, or Brigid. She would say both, maybe. Because what's happened really is this blending of the traditions. So, because what she talks about is how in 1990, the nuns relit Brigid's flame in Ireland, creating a modern celebration that, in her words, blurs the boundaries of Christian and pagan. Empires rise and fall, and rituals that remind us of humanity's resilience are revived and given new meaning. Brigid has a significant meaning for Starhawk and her community. After Ronald Reagan was elected in 1980, her community found themselves in political despair. They decided to create a ritual that would transform despair and to do it on Brigid's feast day. The ritual worked in the way rituals do, she writes. Reagan didn't suddenly decide to be a peacemaker, but we transformed our despair to empowerment. They transformed their despair into action, creating networks of empowerment that still exist today. At first, they participated in a blockade at Diablo Canyon, where a nuclear power plant was being built on an earthquake fault. It wasn't built. They learned a way of organizing that is similar to how Minneapolis has been organizing. They organized in affinity groups that made decisions together, and then in councils that made decisions for the whole. They have been using this form of direct, non-hierarchical democracy for more than 45 years. Starhawk and her community saved water from the original ritual and brought it back each year to be the center of a new well. She writes, "Now in my little bottle of waters of the world, I have water from every continent and every ocean, even from Antarctica. It holds waters from actions going back to Diablo Canyon and those bridge blockades at Livermore, from Headwaters Forest, Seattle in 1999, Occupy, Standing Rock, and today's ever-growing resistance." The rituals continue to work, as rituals often do. The cruelty and the violence have not ended, but a lot of resilient people who will never give up on humanity are still around to help others. The Buddhist monks will arrive in DC this week. Yeah, I hope you've been watching them. As we know, they left Fort Worth in October on a 120-day, 2,300-mile walk to raise awareness of peace, loving kindness, and compassion. They have walked through ice and snow and wind blowing the snow. They have walked, and thousands of people have greeted them with flowers and respect, eager to be in their presence, eager to absorb peace at a time when cruelty competes for our attention. They have walked often with police escorts. County sheriffs and small-town police escort them along their route. As they arrive at a new town or county, law enforcement officers pin one of their badges on the robes of the monk who leads the walk, the Venerable Bhikkhu Panyakara. And if you want to focus on different powerful images of law enforcement, look those up. See what those look like. See how peace can be seen on their faces. As the walk winds down, the Venerable Monk wants us to know that the intention for peace remains as long as we seek to embody it. When more of us learn to trust our basic goodness, society will get stronger, Pema Chodron tells us. We become resilient when we turn our attention to peace, loving kindness, and compassion that is already here. We learn to withstand the ice and the snow and the wind and the cruelty. We learn from each other. We learn that even in the cruelest winter, something beautiful is waiting to emerge. May it be so, and amen. Please rise in body or spirit for our closing hymn, number 1020, Wo Ya Ya.
We are going, heaven knows where we are going, but we know it in, and we will get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. It will be hard, we know, and the road will be muddy and rough, but we'll get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. Oh yeah, yeah, oh yeah, yeah, oh yeah, yeah, oh yeah, yeah. Heaven knows where we are going, but we know within, and we will get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. Oh yeah, yeah, oh yeah, yeah, oh yeah, yeah, oh yeah, yeah.
Please join me in the unison words for extinguishing the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Before the benediction, I want to let you know, if you don't know this, that there'll be an online meditation with the monks this Wednesday. Just look for Walk for Peace on Facebook and they'll tell you how to get there. They are returning to Fort Worth on Saturday. There'll be a walk, a 6-mile walk, and a talk, I think, once they return to their center. So it's a good opportunity to embody peace and to learn to trust our basic goodness. As we learn to trust our basic goodness, as you go out into the world this week, look for that. Look how you trust your own basic goodness and trust that that's enough. That's enough right now in this moment. Go in peace, blessed be, and amen.